everybody. Welcome back to another week of Boogie and The Bell. I am your co-host, The Bell, of course, here with Boogie. Boogie, how are we doing?
Doing great, man. We just got off a super wild card weekend. Some crazy games, a couple upsets, a couple disappointments. But sure, we're gonna get into it and talk about the divisional round. I apologize in advance, to everybody. I'm a little sick right now, so my voice might sound kind of off, but I'm ready to get into it.
It's all good, baby. We're glad you're here. All right, well, shit. Let's get straight to it. We're gonna start with Boogie and The Bell's trivia. Boogie, go ahead and take it away. Let's see if I can get it this week,
All right,
folks.
all right, Abel. I got one trivia question for you this week, and the trivia question is: can you tell me the last time that both number one seeds, so the number one seed from the AFC and the number one seed from the NFC, where both number one seeds lost in the divisional round?
No.
It's
2007.
it's
2007.
it's more recent than you think. Like you honestly might even
Really,
have
two
forgotten
number
this
one
happened.
seeds.
It's actually pretty recent.
I feel like 2020 was such a chaotic year. 2020.
Close, you're close.
21?
20. Oh, you're getting closer. Well, I guess it was
2019?
actually
Oh, closer?
it was
2022?
so I guess it was the 2021-2022
22 season.
season. So it was the playoffs where the Tennessee Titans and the Green Bay Packers were the number one seeds. Both of them lost in the divisional round.
See,
That was the year.
how do we let
That was the year.
Tennessee get number one seed?
I don't know how that happened either. They got the number one seed with a 12-5 record.
Yeah.
So I guess that they beat the Chiefs with a tiebreaker, I guess. But this was the year that the Bengals and the Rams played in the Super Bowl. Um, Surprisingly, both the Rams and the Bengals were the number four seed. So
Wow.
yeah,
Bottom of the divisions.
right.
All right. Cool. The L Boogie. What was the last NFL what team that's currently in the playoffs has the longest streak without a NFL championship or Super Bowl? Rick, I'm gonna say that again for you. NFL championship or Super Bowl. We have multiple teams who've won NFL championships. We have multiple teams that haven't won Super Bowls. But what team hasn't won either in the longest time?
So do the Texans count? Because they've never won it. The Lions have never won it. Um, who else has? There's another team that has the Bills. The Bills haven't won the Super Bowl either.
So two of those teams have won NFL championships in the 50s and 60s, and one of those teams have never won nothing.
So it was the Texans. The Texans haven't done anything,
There you go.
and they're a younger team. When did
It's
they
because they're the
start?
youngest franchise.
They started in like the late '90s, early 2000s,
Didn't
I
they used
think.
to have the Oilers or something? Houston Oilers, or am I tripping? Is that a different sport?
No, it was they were.
We
I
weren't
think they
born
were
for it.
were the Titans the Oilers?
I couldn't tell you, but we are from the tender age of 1998, so we
Yeah,
wouldn't
so
know
I
too
don't.
much. But it was like the Lions won the football championship in the 1957, and then the Bills won in like 54. I'm like, okay.
Okay, all right. I knew those three teams hadn't won a Super Bowl yet, so
And the Texans have nothing but new franchise, promising quarterback. Hey,
hey,
we're looking for America's team. Everybody loves Texas. All right, moving on. Let's go to our L Boogie and the Bell parlays of the weekend. We're gonna keep it to the divisional round. We're at the most exciting part of the NFL football season. So, L Boogie, who you got?
all right. So starting off with my picking going straight money lines. So historically, there's usually always at least one upset in the divisional round. So I felt the need that I had to pick an upset here. So for my upset, I'm taking the Houston Texans to beat the Baltimore Ravens at plus 370. I got the Buffalo Bills at minus 144, beating the Chiefs. I got Detroit winning at minus 275, and the 49ers winning at minus 450. So the total parlay is plus 1227. Turn $10 into 122, man.
Boo! Bro, that shit was
you don't
horrible.
you don't like my
I
pick?
got not at all. the Bell picks, we're going strong with the money lines. We're gonna go Baltimore Ravens over Houston, obviously. We're gonna go San Francisco over Green Bay, obviously. We're gonna go Detroit Lions over Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that will be the
Okay.
game of the week this week. I see Baltimore and San Francisco struggling a little bit after the week. I don't think either of those teams get it. We're gonna get into that later. And last but not least, my only underdog to win this week is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs going into Buffalo, beating Buffalo, assuming that it's going to be some cold temperatures out there. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to prove once again that he has Josh Allen's card. That's my risky pick of the week, and they're only a plus 122, so even the odds makers know that it's going to be a super close battle. So $10 can win you 34.71. We're looking at a plus 347.
Hey,
So
so you agreed with half of my picks at least. We agree on 2 games.
on 4 games.
Yeah,
It's 4 games.
50%, 50%. So
Segment 2. We are gonna get straight into it. It's gonna be topic 1 from me. My question for you, El Boogie, is probably the question I've been waiting to ask you. We talked about it on live, TikTok live, that is. Join in on there as well. Who had the more disappointing loss? The Cowboys or the Eagles? This has been the topic of the week. We've had every analyst, we've had every player, we have multiple people coming out to talk about it. Oh, Boogie, I'm asking you, which team had the more disappointing loss that day? We're talking about that day. We can go into
right,
seasons and stuff, but that day, who had the more disappointing loss?
right. Talking about the wild card. I mean, hey, both teams, the losses were terrible, pretty bad, pretty
Ugly.
embarrassing on both teams. I you know I think that the Cowboys had the more disappointing loss just because they had everything aligned how they needed it to. They were playing at home. They hadn't lost a game at home, and they had like a 15 plus game winning streak at home. Um, so they had home field advantage. They're the number 2 seed. You're playing against the 7th seed Packers, who were starting. I mean, he's not a rookie, but his first year as a starting quarterback. A bunch of young players on that team, no playoff experience. You had a pretty good matchup, a pretty ideal matchup, and you couldn't bring it in at home. Not only that, did you not win the game, you were really getting your tail kicked. Like y'all were getting beat. Like I know the final score makes it seem like it was closer and the stats seem like it was a good game. It wasn't. It was 27-0, I believe, at one point in that game. It was embarrassing. Dak was embarrassing. He was throwing picks, and the coaching just seemed kind of lackluster. The play calling, they just couldn't get it together. So I say Dallas had the more disappointing loss for sure.
And since we're not a debate show, I don't have to make up anything to be able to respond to you and say that was piss poor. That was unbelievable. I mean, Dak just put them in a bad position to start with. We're talking about the pick that ended up being a score. We're talking right after that, we had the pick six. Right after that, and I think they just had a solid drive to get their first 7 points. So we're talking about 21 points right there, right? It was 20. I think it was 20 because they ended up being 27-7 at the end of that half. I mean, there's no coming back from that. But the bigger issue on that day is to go down so bad at home. So it's like everybody's looking around like, is this really happening right now? When you have that moment, at least the Eagles have been showing us recently, and I know I want to keep it to the wild card day, but the Eagles have been showing us recently like they can lose to whoever. And I get that you could lose to anybody in the NFL, but like Marcus Pierce said, is to lose, there's certain fashions that you lose, especially when you're at home, especially when you talked the talk and you didn't even get close to walking the walk, let alone running out of the building. So I think that was just piss poor all around. I think the Cowboys just completely disturbed the whole season. I think they disturbed all the fans that ride with them every single year, even when we know they're not going to do what they think they're going to do. Um, yeah, I think it was a stat where it's like fifth time in a row, and it's fifth time in a row. It's a first round exit, first game exit, or something of that nature. And I'm just, how many times can you do it before it becomes insane? This is the second coach they're on, getting to these type of levels, having these type of teams, and that was just piss poor all around. You can't have your team in that big of a deficit and then talk about, oh, I got it going, or I got it going towards the end. like Shannon Sharp said, those are just empty calories. You're getting fat with no nutrition. So it was
Yeah,
a tough one. It was a tough one.
it was sad, dude. Especially because all season the Cowboys defense was playing so good. They were in the top 5 in defense, I think, for the season. Dan Quinn, who was their defensive coordinator, was getting a lot of head coaching talk, and that defense did not show up. That defense wasn't there. I didn't really hear much from Micah Parsons or anybody else on that team. I think they were down. Trayvon Diggs has been out for a while, and Bland wasn't really playing that good. So their secondary was getting kind of scorched. So yeah, that defense was just
I
all
mean,
around. I don't know what it was with the Cowboys.
at
And
home too. We're talking about at home,
at
Dallas. Everybody's
home,
excited for a Super Bowl. Losing like that in the NFC Championship is like, dang, we didn't come to play. Losing like that in the wild card game was like, dang, we didn't came. It just erases the season, right? So I don't know. You lose like that to San Francisco, awesome. But if you lose like that to a young up and coming team that bad, that explosively, hey, some needs to be blown up. And I think Dak's an awesome quarterback, but when it counts, he's not there.
there's a funny stat too about the Packers. So the Packers have won more playoff games in Dallas's stadium than Dallas has.
That's disturbing. Like Super
I
Bowls
think
included.
well, I think they got a new stadium in like the late '90s,
Oh,
so
in
they
their
haven't been
stadium.
right. So in the
Okay,
AT&T Stadium where they're currently at, the Packers have won 6 postseason games, and I think the Cowboys have only won 5 or something like that. So it's kind of crazy.
that's pretty hilarious.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Um,
Cowboys game. Whew. The Eagles game was bad too, though. The Eagles game, it was bad, but I think it's just less embarrassing because they were on the road. That team was also kind of falling apart by the seams, and it looked like the players just kind of gave up, to be honest.
yeah, crazy. Yeah, piss poor. Moving on to segment two. I mean, moving on to topic two. Go ahead and take it away, Elbook.
All right. So now that we're moving into the divisional round, that means we get to see our first look in the postseason at both the number 1 seeds, the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers. So, hey, Bill, which team do you think is going to struggle more in their divisional matchup? The Ravens versus the Texans or the Niners versus the Packers?
I think that the 49ers are going to struggle more defensively. I think the Ravens aren't going to struggle as much at all this week, which I'm very excited to hear your take. I think that the Packers can starch the 49ers early, which is going to let them know how real the playoffs is because they're ready to score and they're ready to try everything they can to score. And I don't think that the Packers defense is going to give any issues like they gave Dallas. I think that they'll start him early on on the offensive side, and as the game progresses, we'll see how the 49ers just take the lead and show them their dominance and how much better of a team they are. But I do think they get starched early. I think the Packers are riding a heck of a wave. If there's any confident locker room, I think the Packers have the most confident locker room going into the divisional game, and I believe the Ravens. I do think the Texans are very confident, but I think the Ravens are going to come and show what they've shown all year. Like, as long as Lamar Jackson's healthy, there's nothing stopping us from making it to the Super Bowl. So I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it to the Niners. I think the Niners have more problems in the first half than the Ravens have in their entire game, and I think both teams end up winning. El Boogie,
Okay.
Mister, taking the Texans. Explain to me what you think.
So obviously, I'm gonna have to disagree. I think the Baltimore Ravens are gonna have a more difficult time this weekend playing against the Texans. I think one, just because I think the 49ers are gonna handle business pretty comfortably against the Packers. I don't see this being a super close game. I think it's gonna end up being a 2-score win for the 49ers. I can see like a 35-21 kind of final score. Um, because I mean the Niners are just so well coached. I mean, so are the Packers, but the Niners are just a good overall team. They have stars kind of everywhere. Um, so I have confidence that they're going to handle business. And the Ravens, I'm not saying that it's going to be some like crazy blowout like it was where Houston played Cleveland, but what else do you need to see from Houston to believe that they're the real deal. They just beat the Cleveland Browns, who also had a top 5 defense this season, and CJ
Mm.
Stroud just lit them up. Lit them up. Didn't matter their defense. Their defense was playing lights out. Did anybody expect the Texans defense to be that good? No. So because of those reasons, I think
Go ahead. Go ahead.
and they got momentum. So because of those reasons, I think they're going to give Baltimore fits. Another thing to consider is I just have to go off of what I've seen. What have I seen in the playoffs from Lamar Jackson? I've seen okay performances. The team comes up short when they shouldn't. What have I seen in the playoffs from C.J. Stroud? I've seen that he doesn't get pressured. He doesn't get shaken up. That man is going to perform regardless of the circumstance. Baltimore, I haven't seen. When was the last time we saw them be a good team in the postseason and handle business? We haven't. So and it's been a while. It's been a couple years since then. So I think just because of those reasons, like I got the Texans being the surprise for this weekend, going into Baltimore and bringing home a dub.
So I think the big starch for their defense, like their defense literally completely stomping and stopping them, is that Joe Flacco hasn't played playoff football in a while. And he did step in, and he is the 4th starting quarterback there. Fourth. This year.
True, but what was he doing the last couple weeks of the season though? What was he doing?
And it's a fair point until it's all the money's on the line. So the little bit of veterans that the Houston does have, and CJ Stroud been playing awesome. I think like once it got too far ahead, and they just picked their targets, and I think can we give the Texans defensive coordinator some credit, like playing Joe Flacco like a fiddle?
Dude, yeah, no, he's good, but no, their head coach. I saw because there was one. I think either Joe Flacco threw a pick or a pick six, and I saw a replay. They had the player who caught the pick six mic'd up. The head coach told him what to do, like right before that drive. He said, "Hey, if they do this play, sit on this route, you're gonna get a pick," and then he does it. It's
Bro,
crazy.
I think it was just a well coached game. I think Houston's ready to play. I just think the Ravens have built something that can match any young team's momentum. So, and they're not playing against somebody. They're 4th starter. They're playing against the guy who is ready to win his Super Bowl, the guy who's ready to win his MVP and Super Bowl. Like I think Lamar's not coming here. I don't think they're playing around with these boys at all. I think they're trying to get them out of there. But I do think a young team comes in and has a couple of plays, but I don't think they starch them nearly how the Packers are probably going to starch them early. But I can't believe you have Houston going to the AFC Championship.
Dude, they are my upset. You have to pick an upset this week. I like that upset out of everything.
Give me a score. Give the people a score.
For that game, I think it's going to be a low score, relatively low scoring. Give me a 21-17.
I'm feeling like a 27-13.
Your thing is going to be
Ravens.
that wide for Ravens? You think so?
I think Houston's going to have 2 great drives entire game. 2 great drives, one ends in a field goal and another one just to get a field goal.
I can see it. I hope it's not that. I hope it's a close competitive game, and it's I really hate to see these two, because I really want both of these teams to advance. I wish we didn't have to see them in the divisional round, and one of them
I do too, but
out.
I don't have Houston over the Bills or the Chiefs. That's a tough, almost an even tougher game, because I don't think they get past the Chiefs, and I really don't think Josh Allen's ready to fire.
Let me tell you this: if the Texans win this game, if they beat the Baltimore Ravens, I'm just gonna ride the Texans train to the Super Bowl. I'm just gonna ride it, because they're if they beat the Browns senseless and they go into Baltimore and beat the Ravens, why couldn't they go and beat Baltimore or Kansas City? Why couldn't they?
Okay. All right, moving on to topic 3. Excuse me. Moving on to topic 4. El Boogie. Oh, excuse me. Topic 3 or topic 4?
Topic 3.
Topic 3. Explaining our divisional playoffs. So we could avoid. Let's avoid the Niners and the Ravens. We've talked about them enough. Let's talk about Bills and Chiefs and Lions and Tampa Bay. Go ahead, Boogie.
All right, so I'll start off. We'll start off with Lions and Tampa Bay. So I think we both got the Lions winning this game, and I think just because Detroit. I think Detroit one is the better team. Um, better team. When Jared Goff doesn't turn the ball over, I like him over Baker Mayfield for sure. I like the offensive talent on the Lions more. Outside of Mike Evans, Mike Evans is a dog, but outside of that, I like the Detroit Lions everywhere else. Um, and I like the Lions defense more. I know the Buccaneers just came off a crazy showing against the Eagles, but I don't think they're going to have that easy of a time playing on the road in Detroit. And Detroit has something to prove. Like Detroit, that city, that team, everybody in that building, they are motivated to keep going. I don't think, I don't think that story ends with them just winning a playoff game and beating the Rams. I think this story is going to keep getting written and it's going to go to an NFC Championship. So that's why I picked the Lions.
For sure. So with the Lions, I just want them to win. I want the city of Detroit to generate that revenue. I want the blackest city in America to just flourish and have fun with this football team. I want Motor City to be lit. I just want them the as happy as people. I didn't know Ninja was from Detroit. That was interesting for me to learn. But I just really enjoy seeing Detroit win because I've never seen it before in my life. Like the only thing I knew about Detroit growing up is that they're the team that always lost on Thanksgiving. Like that's the one thing that I always knew about Detroit. So I'm excited. I'm excited for Detroit to win this game. I think last week's game is potentially tougher than this week's game, honestly. Tampa Bay, Baker Baker deserves to have a good game, but I don't know if he's built the chemistry to win the Super Bowl with this team yet. And next year, if Baker plays the way he's playing now, they're going to be a problem. I think, as Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are starting to get into the later years of their ages, I think next year they're going to be dogs. I think they're not going to be playing. I think they're going to be on a mission to win a bowl. But this year, I do think the Lions could take it at home, last home game of the season. There's no more after this. No win, lose, or draw. They don't get it unless the Niners lose.
I was gonna say if the Niners lose, then technically they could have another one, but
and that would be crazy. And then there's just more money to Detroit and everything worker. Like that's what I want, but the 49ers aren't losing this week. But 49ers and Cowboys aren't comparable. I'm excited for Detroit to win this football game. Now, on the flip side, let's talk about the Chiefs and the Bills. Like I said earlier, I think the Chiefs, not even the Chiefs, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to show once again that he has his card. I think that is going to be a fire show. I think 35-36. That potentially was a score in the past for those two teams. I think it's going to be an amazing game. That's the game that I'm making sure that I'm just sitting in front of the TV and watching play by play. I'm ready to see Josh Allen do something perfectly wild like he usually does. And who better than Patty Mahomes to just do some random stuff? As long as they catch the ball, which they showed that they could do that last week, it's all gravy. So,
yeah, I mean,
what do you think? Did you give a take on that?
I mean, kudos to the Chiefs because they seemed in that game against Miami, they seemed like their offense cut out the mistakes. And they were playing in frigid cold temperatures. It seemed like they cut out the mistakes. Like they're playing more serious now because they know like, hey guys, this is it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with your take. I think this is going to be a crazy game. Two powerhouses going at it, but I think this is the year that the Buffalo Bills beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this is the year Josh Allen finally beats Mahomes in a playoff game. Just because it's been too many times. The Bills have something to prove. They're on a hot streak right now. They're playing at home. They got their fans, their environment. Like this,
Hey, this week is gonna be lit.
I think these games. I think all these games are gonna be really good. This is Patrick Mahomes' first postseason game on the road that isn't a Super Bowl. This is first game in his career, which is crazy to think. But yeah, I don't know. I think Josh Allen and the Bills. I think they hold it down. I definitely think this is going to be a shootout for sure. I think this is going to be like a 35-32 type of game, and you're going to see Josh Allen with 3 rushing touchdowns and 2 fumbles and still win the game. Like it's going to be crazy.
Taking off with the ball, hitting
Yeah.
people and stuff.
Did you
Like, bro,
see
you
the
too
Did you see
big.
the play from Did you see the play from last week where he did like a fake slide and then he kept running?
Did you get stuck? I didn't see it.
Nah, so he did a fake slide and it juked out the DB because he thinks he's sliding. He's like, all right, I'm gonna give up. But then he just kept running and kept going.
Josh Allen's a wild boy, man. They better stop
Yeah.
playing with him. All right. And last topic of the day, guys. L Boogie, give it to me.
Topic four, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but this is an important storyline for this postseason, focusing on this particular player. He's been the topic of a lot of conversation the past couple years. Baker Mayfield. I don't know
Mm.
about you, but I did not see the performance he had against the Philadelphia. He threw for 300 plus yards, no picks. Like, he balled out. He's turning that team that nobody really thought would be that good. He's making them. I mean, you see what they're doing. They're in the divisional round now, after winning their division. So the question is, what do the Buccaneers? What do they do with Baker Mayfield in the offseason? Because I think they just signed him to a 1 year deal this year. What do they do? Do they make Baker the guy? Do they what
You,
like?
you, money's everything, but if you could keep Baker and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are comfortable with Baker Mayfield, then you keep them exactly with what they want. But like I've been saying week after week, you could plug a lot of quarterbacks into that system with those two receivers and their supporting cast. And I don't know if they kept the same offensive coordinator for the past 5 years, but since Jameis Winston, they've proven that they are very effective down the field. So you can plug in a lot of quarterbacks, and it's a proven system from Jameis Winston to Tom Brady to now Baker Mayfield. Like, they're having a lot of success in the air. So if they're comfortable with Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield does what he did last week to teams that want to self-destroy, and he exposes teams for that want to self-destroy, I think keep Baker for next year. But if you're understanding that Godwin and Evans are getting older, and it might be the second half of their career, and you see a rebuild in the future, I don't know if you risk that much money doing a 3 year deal or 4 year deal with Baker when you could just get him for 1 to 2. So 1 year with an extension. I think that'd be the safer route. But if you want him to have full confidence in trying to take a team to the Super Bowl, you give him 3 to 4. So it's a hard, tough decision. I don't even have the answer to it. But I think he deserves a lot of love in his paycheck, but he doesn't deserve a lot of security just because of the system that they have in place and not knowing how long they're going to keep that system.
True. I think what's tough with them is they're not in a good space, salary cap wise.
Okay.
Like they don't have a lot of room to go and get pieces. Um, that's part of the reason why they haven't even re-signed Mike Evans to an extension. Like, Mike Evans is going to hit free agency in the summer,
Mm.
unless I think they can franchise tag him, which they may do. But Mike Evans is set to hit free agency. Chris Godwin's on a deal for another 2 years, I think. But like they don't have the money to pay Baker like starting quarterback, like top 10 quarterback money. I could see him getting a deal kind of similar to Geno Smith, where they give him like a 3 year, $80 million deal. So he's making like not great quarterback money, but not like trash quarterback money. I don't know. I think he's shown enough to at least get that, or give him like a 2 year, $70 million deal or something like that. Just for now. I don't think Baker is the guy. I don't think Baker is gonna be your
Really?
franchise quarterback for 10 years. Like, do you really
Or
want to for 10? I don't. I mean, maybe. I mean, he's showing that he's taking this team to the playoffs and they're doing well. So who knows what can happen? But I mean, what we've seen from teams. I mean, out of all the teams in the playoffs, how many of them have their starting quarterback for the next 5 to 10 years? The answer is
yeah.
most of them.
So for
And
uh so for the 49ers, I would just say let's pick up on this topic next week. I want to know what he does against the 49ers. If he comes and puts his heart on the field, that man deserves a lot of respect. I
who?
don't have them beating, but if they win the game, oh my God, he's giving them a
Oh,
contract, NFC
who?
Championship.
Who the?
Baker, I'm saying if the
Oh,
49ers
if he
lose
goes
next
to.
week,
Okay,
wait, no, excuse me. Tampa Bay plays the Lions. If they beat
Detroit.
the
Yeah.
Lions, excuse me. If they
Okay.
beat the
Okay. I
Lions
got you.
at Detroit, with all this hype and Baker puts on his suit and he puts on his cape and wins the game, oh, it's over. It's over with. And then whatever he does against the 49ers, as long as he comes to play, he's trying to play for a championship. And like I said, that convinces people like Mike Evans to come back. That convinces, helps them figure out a lot of salary stuff, helps them get the right pieces for the defense. But it's kind of hard to put it all on these playoffs. So can Baker be somewhere next year? Possibly, but we'll see how he does this week. I definitely want to revisit this for him.
Yeah, I think he deserves to be a starting quarterback in this league. I definitely do think that. I just don't think he's the guy you're going to build your franchise around. But can he be a placeholder while a team figures out other stuff for the next 2 to 3
Yeah.
years?
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
that's Tampa. Maybe that's Tampa Bay. Maybe it's somewhere else. But But yeah, no. If he goes and beats Detroit, that would definitely. He's getting paid. He's getting paid.
Sure. All
Yeah.
right, man. You ready? Are we gonna watch this week? Catch me and El Boogie on live stream. We're probably gonna live stream a little bit this weekend if we're available. Maybe we go out and get a drink. Who knows? Um, Catch us on TikTok on El Boogie and the Bell. El Boogie, you got any last comments? Regards.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Make sure y'all follow us on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok. And yeah, man, we'll be here same place, same time next week to break down the divisional round.